All right. So you should be able to let other people in now, Manisha, right? Awesome. Okay. Can you allow me to share screen as well? It seems like I'm not able to share the screen at the moment. Ah, yeah, there we go. Awesome. All right, so
Tam jest jeszcze Kasza, Biegdana.
David, could you please mute yourself? Thank you. Okay, so that's the topic of today's sonic alchemy and sound healing in Ableton or with Ableton, right? And before we get into a very practical example of that, I would like to share some terms and definitions so that we're all on the same page. And you cannot really talk about sound healing and sonic alchemy without talking about tuning and frequencies and pitch and all that stuff. So this is the schedule for today. First, we're going to go briefly into the ideas of tuning, pitch, and frequency, what that means, and give a practical example. Then we look at why are we using different tunings other than 440 Hertz, which is currently still the industrial standard. And then we look at one of the many tunings that we have available. Like there's many tunings you could talk about, but today we're just going to talk about 432 Hertz. Going to ask the question, is that the universal tuning? We're going to see. And then we're going to talk a little bit about like sound healing and sonic alchemy and how that is possible with the computer. And with a very practical example where I introduced you to the Shamanic Portals template and where we're going to create a sound journey from scratch. And then if we still feel like it and there's still time, there will be a Q&A where you can answer your questions. Okay, so let's have a look. Pitch, right? Pitch refers to the perceived highness or lowness of a musical note or a sound. It's very subjective and it's related to the frequency or sound wave. So the explanation is when you hear a musical sound, your brain interprets the frequency as a specific pitch. And higher frequency waves are perceived as higher pitches, while lower frequency waves are perceived as lower pitches. And I can give you like a real quick example of that here in Ableton. And then you can also already let me know. I think I forgot to share the sound as well, so I need to share again, probably. Let me know if you can hear that. Can you hear the sound? No, right? Okay, so I need to share the screen again and then share the sound as well.
Stefan, there's a question that a few of us are wondering if this recording will be provided after.
Yeah, that's something that we can organize. I mean, if you stay, it needs to be like converted, right? And depending on how long, you can just send me an email. I put it in the Dropbox and then I send it. We need to find out a way for that, but it's going to take a time until it's rendered. And then if you can come up with an idea how I can best, like maybe you can gather like the email addresses or something like that, or I don't know where I should put it. But yeah, I'm happy to share with you for sure. And then maybe also just put it on my YouTube channel. Maybe that's the easiest way to do it, right? But yeah, definitely open to share it and definitely open to your ideas of how I could share it with you. As I said, after the recording, it needs to render and then I can put it on my Dropbox or I just put it on my YouTube channel and then everybody can see it. Okay, so here we have a tone generator. It's a free device, a free plugin within Ableton. It's not like within Ableton, but I open it in Ableton. You can download it. It's called M Oscillator. And I use this to create tones. And then after this, I put a tuner here, right? And you can find the tuner in Ableton. And if you're new to Ableton completely, no worries. I will get into Ableton a bit more in depth in the sound journey section. But for now, just see that here we have effects, and this is a tuner, and this shows us the value. We can also look at the value here in Hertz. So this is showing us, okay, so it's actually playing an A in 216 Hertz, right? And so if I change the pitch, right, it's going up or down. So that's the pitch. And same goes with the frequency. I can change the frequency. Higher frequency values are perceived as the higher pitch, and lower frequency values are perceived as a lower pitch. So that's just the perception of high or low, right? This is not really the tuning yet. So the next thing we're going to look at is the tuning, right? So tuning is the process of adjusting musical instruments or sounds to produce specific pitches that are in harmony with its chosen reference pitch. And this is key and really crucial if we want to create music that is highly harmonically resonant with healing frequencies. And we get into this in a second, but really tuning is key, especially in Ableton or in any music production software. And this is also a very powerful tool that we have because we can change the tuning on the fly, which you cannot do with your singing bowls. You know, they stay in a tuning, but in the computer you can change the tuning on the fly, and this is a very powerful thing that we can do in order to shift through different sound healing modalities and Sonic Alchemy toolkits. So it involves setting the frequencies of the notes accurately to create pleasant and accurate musical intervals, right? This is also, again, within the confines of what we perceive as harmonious. And it's funny because this is talking about it like from a music theory perspective, but actually, like, we didn't invent music. Music is innate to the cosmos, like the harmonic relations, and what we perceive as pleasant and not pleasant is what we resonate with and what we don't resonate with. And the universe in and of itself is harmonious and highly ordered and structured. And this is why we resonate with the intervals that seem pleasant to us, but it's not something, you know, that music theory dictates. Music theory just describes what is already inherent in the cosmos and in nature. So that's really beautiful. And tuning ensures that the instruments or voices are playing in a way that aligns with the established standards or the desired musical temperament. And it can involve the adjusting of tension on the strings of a guitar, or aligning the keys of a piano, or in our case, changing the values of a synthesizer or a sample, right? So that is tuning. And it was mentioned the reference pitch, right? So let's have a look at the reference pitch here. So now the tuner is listening to everything in reference to A equals 440 Hertz, which is the standard tuning, which means A is vibrating at 440 Hertz. And everything needs to be adjusted to this if you want to be in that frequency, right? So if I put in the frequency here, 432, for example, right? And then I increase the sound, and it's showing me, oh, it's actually off, right? Because it's listening to 440 Hertz, and then it's saying, oh, no, you need to adjust a little bit. You know, the pitch was also off, so I need to set that to 0. Otherwise, we'll get a wrong value here. So again, 432. Right? So it's saying, oh, that's actually 32 cents off. And 50 cents is the semitone. So we're almost like a semitone flat, but it's now listening to 440, right? But if we tell the tuner, yeah, I'd listen to A 432, so I change the value here of the reference pitch, boom, all of a sudden we are straight on, right? So this is what is meant reference pitch, and this is really helpful when you want to tune your instruments in Ableton with the tuner and you want to check. Make sure that you have the correct reference pitch so that the tuner can show you accurately how you need to adjust it. And, you know, like the cent values. So now, if I go to 440 again, right? So then it's showing me, oh, wow, it's actually 32 cents sharp. So it's like too high. But this value, I can deduct this value. I can put minus 32 cents on a sample, and I will show you that later. And then I tune it from 440 to 432, right? So that's really important to know, that you can change the reference pitch and that tuning is always in reference to a pitch. to a reference tuning, which always refers to the note A, where the note A is tuned at, right? There's other tunings as well, 444 and 428, and I will go into that in other workshops, but for now we just focus on 432. So the last thing we need to look at is just the term frequency, right? So frequency is the physical property of a sound wave, and it's measured in hertz. And it represents the number of vibrations or cycles per second, right, that occurs. So it's a quantitative measure of how quickly a sound wave oscillates. Higher frequencies have shorter wavelengths and are perceived as higher pitches, and lower frequencies have longer wavelengths and are perceived as lower pitches. And specific frequencies correspond to particular musical note, and other specific frequencies, which we're getting into when we talk about healing frequencies, they are not necessarily musical notes unless we change the reference pitch and we make them fit into a harmonic structure where everything then abides by or like wants to serve these notes. So we have to find our adjustment tunings, right? And we're going to have a look at that in a second. So that is the term frequency. And now just in order like to summarize everything, right? So the key differences. Is there a question? No, okay. So the key differences are pitch is a subjective perception of the highness or lowness of a sound, while the frequency is an objective measurement with a number value to it, and it's showing the vibrations per second, right? And tuning is the process of adjusting instruments or synthesizers or software instruments to create accurate harmonious pitches that are in relation to a reference pitch, and the frequency is the physical property of a sound wave. And pitch is what we hear, and tuning is the process of adjusting, and frequency is the physical measurement, right? So those are really key terms, and it was important for me to share that with you so we're all on the same page, because sometimes people don't really know exactly what it means, and now we know exactly, we have accurate descriptions and definitions, and now we don't need to wonder anymore what it means. And when I talk about those things now, you know what I'm referring to, right? All right, so now why are we using different tunings, right? So because for many decades now, 440 Hz was the standard tuning. And you might agree or like argue why that is. And there's a lot of conspiracies out there. I'm not getting into this, and I'm not dogmatic about any frequency. I'm not saying 440 Hz is bad. There's beautiful music out there that me and many other people have produced that is definitely healing, and it's more important the intention than anything. However, there are very interesting auspicious things and phenomena that are evolving around 432, the number that I'm curious. And I'm always also, trying to be open and trying to see all the different perspectives. And I'm just offering tools. So I'm not favoring one tuning over the other. Intuitively, I would say, like 432 resonates more when I listen to it. And I prefer to, when I do sound journeys and things like that, I prefer to not work in 440 for the reasons that I'm going to show you. But I'm not saying 440 is bad. I'm not going into this idea that this is a bad frequency. And at the same time, there's a lot of people who believe that 432 Hertz is beneficial. And this belief alone creates an effect because it creates a morphogenetic field that you can tap into when you work with that. And when you work with a positive intention as well, then this is amplifying the effect. And so that's why I'm open to all kinds of tunings, and I would suggest you do your own research and you feel for yourself. And the intention is even more powerful than the frequency itself. That's what I feel. It's about with what intention you work with it, because it's embedded. And at the same time, 432 is such an auspicious number for reasons we're going to get into. But before we look at that, so what are healing frequencies, right? In my understanding, healing frequencies are geometric source code number values, right? I mean, that's a mouthful. Geometric source code number values converted into cycles per second. So for me, numbers are alive. Numbers have consciousness, and numbers have a purpose and a meaning, and like something even that is not really like that is beyond, like on a multidimensional subtle level. They have certain qualities, and we can work with numbers in different ways. And at the same time, if we use them as a frequency, then we can tune into what they represent, right? So again, healing frequencies are geometric source code number values, and they have an attunement and entrainment effect on us at the multidimensional level of our beingness. And again, this taps into the idea that our innate state is a state of harmony and balance, and the universe is harmonious and balanced, and everything is highly ordered and structured, and it has a certain language, it has a certain structure. And by working with those numbers and frequencies and tunings, we can tune into that, and on a deep level we remember and we resonate with that, and we can work with that in order to get back into harmony and harmonic resonance, which is our natural state anyway, I believe. But we just went away from that by disconnecting ourselves from nature and disconnecting ourselves from our inner guidance and our intuition and our inner source by looking outside of ourselves and all that stuff. But innately it's all there, and healing frequencies can help us to remember that and to tap into that and realign with that, right? So they help us to overcome the illusion of separation, and they help us to experience our connection with a harmonious universe and feel the oneness of all that is, right? So that's very powerful. That's basically all that we want. Eventually we want to all come back home, and what is home? Home is source, creator within, and oneness. And this is what we can experience, where this can be a gateway, like those frequencies, those tunings, this kind of music can be a gateway into our state. We're always connected, but we can create the experience that we're not, and we can create the beliefs that we are not. And we have created so much distortions in our energetic patterns and in our geometry, in our being, so that these things can help to harmonize and balance and to stabilize and help us lock in and phase conjugate with this state of being. So when we're working with healing frequencies, we need different tunings other than 444 hertz to create musical harmony. And this is again where we're talking about the reference pitch, and where those numbers, they don't occur in a 440 hertz tuning scale. They occur in different other tuning scales that we're going to look at. And specific healing frequency groups need their own specific aligned tuning in order for us to create music that feels and sounds harmonious with the healing frequencies that are being played. And this becomes even more obvious when we work with solfeggio frequencies, but that's not the topic of today's presentation. But you're also going to see it with 432 hertz. So the question that comes up then, some people claim, 432 hertz is the universal tuning. I put a question mark on that. That's up for you guys to decide. I'm just very intrigued by all those auspicious things that have been found out, and the number values and harmonic series, and everything adding up to 9 in that harmonic scale. And there's a term that has been coined by Erik Rankin. He is supposedly the first one who discovered that 432 hertz, or the number 432, relates to geometry, right? And he created this, what he calls the factor 9 matrix. And there you see different values. And you see also 432 showing up here, as well as other auspicious numbers like 144, 108, 2160. Like those are all numbers that occur in ancient structures, in ancient texts and mystical texts. And there's a whole documentary that I highly suggest that you watch in case you don't know it. It's called Sonic Geometry. It's even like Robert Edward Grant, like the polymath. Some of you might know him. If not, check him out. He's like the modern Pythagoras in a sense, and many more things. He co-produced actually this documentary. And here they talk about all those auspicious connections that I cannot get into, but I highly recommend you check it out. There's actually 3 parts of this documentary. And there you see all the fascinating correlations and codes that have to do with the number 432. So again, yeah, you don't even need to see 432 as a tuning per se. You can just see it as a code, as a consciousness, as something that is inherent in the universe, and that comes that can be seen over and over again in different phenomena in nature. May it be like, like this the movement of planets, or the distance of planets, or sacred sites, all kinds of things. So it's just a very auspicious number. And what Erik Rankin found out was that the geometry reveals major chord harmonics. And that's very interesting, because he was guided, to draw a triangle and then find out, okay, so this is a 180 hertz, a 180 degree sum of the angles. And then he was guided to play that tone. And then he was guided to play and find out about the other some angles. And then he realized, oh my God, those geometries actually create a major chord, right? And this is really interesting. And we can actually have a listen to that. So, so here I have the operator in Ableton, right? And the operator is a FM synthesizer, but it also has the opportunity to create fixed frequency values. So if you change this, from coarse to fixed, if you enable fixed, you can actually type in a frequency value here. And those are 4 different oscillators, each oscillator making a tone. They are now deactivated. So if we listen to the first one, right? So this is 180 hertz. And then I put in the next tone. It's an octave higher. And then 540 hertz is actually the perfect fifth. And then 900 hertz is the third, right? So again, right? So those are all like geometric values. Those are like the sum angles of the Platonic solids, of different solids. So if you look again here, right, we have the triangle, we have the rectangle, the circle, the pentagon, and all these other ones. So that is already very interesting, that there's a relationship, a harmonic relationship between geometry and sound. And then at the same time, it's not at all, because everything is made out of frequency and vibration, and everything is harmonious. So this is just like showing that on another level, right? Geometry and music is the same thing. Like architecture is like frozen music, basically, right? So this is where the term sonic geometry comes from. And as I said, I really recommend you, that's Erik Rankin here, to watch his documentary. And again, he is like the Platonic solids and the values and the sounds and the notes that they represent. So that is very interesting in and of itself, and reason enough for many people to believe that 432 hertz as a tuning is more in alignment and more harmonious with nature. And the last thing I want to look at is, right, so there's a beautiful presentation here that I also should suggest you check out. It's also about like what Erik Rankin was talking about, and it's made up in this beautiful presentation we can just walk through. But because we don't have so much time, maybe I just put that thing in the chat for now, so you guys can open it in your browser, as well as this sonic geometry documentary here, which is awesome. So the question that is being posed at the end is, so what is 432 hertz? One answer might be that through our history, we have been guided to a universal language expressed through time, space, frequency, and geometry. And that number might be the most important key to a language we yet have to fully understand. What will we use it for? And tonight, we're going to use it to create sound healing and sonic alchemy. So this concludes this presentation. Do you have any questions so far? Everything clear? All good? I cannot see you guys. If you have any questions, please put it in the chat. If not, we just continue, right? So let's see if there is something. Oh, good here. Awesome. Okay, great. So then let's hop into Ableton. So can you let me know in the chat who's a beginner in Ableton and who already knows something? Or maybe just let me know who is a beginner in Ableton so that I know where to start, right? I'm going to open the template now called Shamanic Portals that I've created with a friend of mine. And depending on where you are with your experience with Ableton, I can get more deeper into also the foundation of Ableton and all that stuff. But if you all like know Ableton already, then can talk about other things and go more in depth, right? It all depends on what we need and where we stand. And at the same time, you can always ask questions, you know, if something is not clear, right? And also, so let's talk a little bit about sonic alchemy and sound healing, right? So healing for me stems from wholeness, right? Which again is our natural state of being. Okay, cool. Thank you. I think that's James. Yeah, awesome. Experienced beginner. That's great. Yeah, so healing stems from wholeness, right? Which is our natural state anyway. And at the same time, we created the experience that we are not whole and fractured. And on our journey as a soul, creating all this karma and going through all those cycles and experiences, we went a little bit away from the idea of wholeness. So healing for me means reconnecting with wholeness, which is already present, which is already there, which is actually our essence and which is, yeah, our natural state. And at the same time, we have created structures and realities that are not so much reflective of that. So we need tools in order to retune ourselves to get back into alignment, back into harmony, right? So that's another thing. Healing means vibrating correctly. And what means correctly? Correctly means in harmony and resonance with nature, with the universe, with the cosmos, with our inner guidance and with the structure of the universe, right? So that's why, you know, like physical instruments like singing bowls and tuning forks and shamanic drums and all the good stuff can really help us, you know, to get into this state and to retune with those natural vibrations. And they can help us clear our energy fields. They can help us move through blockages. They're just moving energy, right? So that's really powerful. And then sonic alchemy is where we also work with intention and with healing frequencies. And we really use sound to transmute and transform darkness into light, basically. That's the main purpose, or like lower frequencies into higher frequencies. And this is also where the portal comes in here. So the template, I mean, the Shamanic Portals, right? So this is an Ableton project. And those are all like sounds. They're basically loops that you can play like a DJ would play, but like a DJ would play tracks, but we play like a sound journey, right? That's the whole idea of this in a nutshell. It's a very beginner-friendly tool for sonic alchemists to create sound journeys like a DJ would play a DJ set, or like a live act would play a live performance. And we're going to get into it in a second. I just want to talk also about the approach behind it. You know, talking about like the principle of constructive resonance, or like entrainment resonance, which means higher frequencies are always entraining lower frequencies. And this template is actually based, or the sounds are based on the idea of parallel realities, right? In the past and in the future. So the idea is that we are living kind of like in a multidimensional hologram, and our past, like time is not linear. Time is like a circle. It's cyclical. It's depending on where we focus our consciousness. We can experience the past or the present or the future, but it's all coexisting, and we can tap into this. And that's what I did I was tapping into versions of Earth and different planets in the future and in the past to receive frequencies and codes that I was then putting into the music so that we could bring those frequencies of those higher realms into this realm to then magically change our reality by using those higher frequencies, right? So I was tuning in and meditating and then receiving certain feelings and certain guidance and working with beings together. And we created those sounds. And then at the beginning, there was no names. There was just like feelings and frequencies and you know, like sounds that I was guided to create. But then my friend Sky, he was actually listening to each of the sounds and meditating upon it. And then he channeled actually the whole world. Like he was receiving images and he was creating images. And this whole template was actually coming with the beautiful ebook, right? So just I want to show you here. Oh wait, where is that? Able templates. So the whole idea is that if you get this template, you also not just get the sounds, but you also get amazing images and you get the story of each realm because each realm has a story to tell. Each realm has its own wisdom and we can tap into this wisdom and we can harness that in order to create our sonic alchemy journeys, right? So basically each image represents one of the sounds here. And at the same time, we also have that within Ableton here, this is the lessons. So I could say like, right, those are 16 different scenes, right? They are like color coded. So all the sounds with the same color, they belong to one realm basically, right? And as you can see, there's also Atlantis, you know, which you might remember or not from different lifetimes. And there's Aboria, which is very reverent to like Avatar or like realms, you know, where everything is like very harmonious and beautiful in nature. Actually, Costa Rica was also very inspiring for me because I was in Costa Rica when this was channeled. And so you can check this out and find also a lot about how the sounds can be used, right? So this is kind of a guide. It's a guide to inspire you. It's a guide to understand the worlds deeper. It's a guide to tune in, you know, with the wisdom of those worlds. And at the same time, you can also just be fully intuitive, which we're going to do now. So let's have a look at the channels here, right? So each of those lines here or like those blocks is a channel that has sounds on it. And those names here, like low drones, mid drones, high drones, those are elements that I think are important to create a sound journey, right? And we have Atmos sounds and drone sounds, flora and fauna. And then we even have like sound healing instruments and shamanic or like sound healing effects and shamanic effects, right? So let's go through them one by one. So if you click on a clip, right, you can launch a sound. So you click play, and this is the volume here. So you can adjust the volume and let me know, is that okay, the volume? Can you hear that good? Should I make it louder or quieter? All good with the sound?
Yes.
Okay, great. Awesome. So that is a low drone, right? And a drone is basically like a sustained note that is playing and creating this kind of grounding effect, hypnotic effect, trance effect. It's very stabilizing. It's just one note. It's not like a melody and it's not like a chord progression. It's like really setting the foundation. And at the same time, it's atmospherical and it's called low drones because it's in the lower end of the frequency spectrum. So this is kind of like a singing bowl drone, kind of, right? And so this is the foundation. When I create a sound journey, I always start with a low drone because I want the people to ground first, right? And then as we progress, We want to fill out the frequency spectrum that spans from around like 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz, and all the instruments that exist are somewhere in between that spectrum, also depending on which octave we are playing. But the low drone is like the foundation. And then we go up, you know, like there's a mid drone. So that means it's an octave higher, and you can already hear, you know, it's like a different feeling. It's maybe, you know, not as grounding anymore, but it's taking us somewhere. And then we have like the high drones, right? And all of a sudden, you know, we're having a journey almost already, or there's a lot going on. And again, this is representing like a certain realm, which is called Twilight's Edge. And if you want to check it out, what this is about, you can check out the Shamanic Portals guide and find out about this fascinating realm. And then we have some atmospheric sounds here. Right? So now it gets really alive. It becomes like really organic. Things start to move, and we really, you know, dive into this realm and experience its magic. And then flora and fauna is like field recordings of nature. So for me, need to turn a little bit down on my headphones. How is like my voice in regards to the music? Is that a good balance, or can you hear my voice okay?
Maybe your voice, we need to hear your voice a little bit more, and the sound a bit less.
Okay, thanks, Myla. That's what I felt. So how is that? Is that better?
The sound is slightly less.
Still that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, as I said, like nature for me, I'm going to stop this now by pressing stop here. As I said, like nature is the greatest sound healer for me, because everything in nature is vibrating in harmonic resonance. Like there's no distortion in there. And this is also why it feels so good to be in nature, because again, it helps us to reconnect with our innate state. So for me, it's like super important to incorporate that in the journey, in the sonic alchemy journey or sound healing journey. And here we have different options to choose from. And when I create a journey, I mostly even start with the nature sounds, right? So now we're seeing how to look at this from a kind of like a linear perspective, in a sense that, oh yeah, so this is a scene and this represents this world, and I can stay within this world and channel that magic, and that's beautiful. However, the cool thing, the really cool thing about this template is that it's all modular and interchangeable, and all sounds work with each other because they're all in the same key, C major, and they're all in 432 hertz. So you can choose any sound and intuitively create whatever you want, right? So let's do this now. Let's just like launch a bunch of sounds. Right? I mean, that works. It's another world, and this is where the multidimensional approach comes in again, and where we like becoming magicians in the sense that we are just like weaving with frequencies, you know, like we are not bound to like a limited perception, just one reality, just one world. No, we can jump between portals, and we can become a planar voyager, and you know, take the essence of that world and alchemize it into a whole new experience that's super unique in that moment, right? And so now I was showing you already like a way of kind of performing, you know, and that's like the easiest and most intuitive way of actually, you know, working with the template, is just like listening to the sounds and finding things that you like, and then you can just play them one after the other. And if you want to perform it, you know, like in front of people, then you might want to have something like a controller that allows you to control like the volume and things like that. But we can also do it with the mouse. So for now, we just bring all the levels down here, right? So those are the faders. Each channel has its own fader. And we just bring the volume down on each of them. And so let's say we want to start here with the word mother, and I'm going to bring in the wildlife menagerie. And what I also can do is, instead of just performing it, I can actually press record here, right? And this allows me to record the performance that I'm doing. And this is going to be really helpful later when I want to share it with people. Let's say you are doing like an event or doing a sound journey, just performing it, but actually people say, oh, did you record it? Or you want to share it with the world that was so magical, and you wish you had it captured somehow. Well, it's possible in Ableton. And all you need to do is press record here, which is saying record into arrangement. And if I press record now, everything is being recorded. So I bring in the volume gently, right? And as I said, usually, oh, I need to press play here. Usually I would do that with the controller, but now I'm just using my mouse. Right, so starting with that. And then let's go to a drone here in Arborea, low drone, playing that. Bring slightly in the volume. Right, and then maybe some Atmos sounds. You know, and you can just intuitively play sounds, or you can listen and know your favorites. But it's also really fun to just be surprised, or just look at the words here and feel like, oh, ritual of light, that sounds interesting. What might that be? And then you can play around with bringing in and out elements, right? So let's bring in the low drone. And now let's go over here to the sound healing and shamanic sound effects. So those are sounds that we can use in order to spice up the journey, or like to create additional frequencies that are supporting our intentions. So here in this one, we have like different sound healing recordings, Tibetan bowls, tingsha's, tuning forks, and gongs, right? So if I press play here on this play thing here, you can hear that's a Tibetan bowl soft, right? And then here's the tingsha, tuning fork, gong. Right, so this makes it very interactive and again allows you to create more healing frequencies, because of course they also tune to the healing frequencies, as you can see, into 432 Hz. So that's really cool. And then you can even put like some effects, right? So I can put some echo here. And some space, some reverb, make it like really spacey. right? Oh, I need to check the chat here. Thank you. Thank you, Laszlo. Is there a difference in sound healing effect to start from atmospheric bursts like now or from low frequencies as you did in the beginning? I'm going to stop this for now to answer the question. The question is there a difference in sound healing effect to start from atmospheric birds or the low drone? I would say it depends what you feel, like I just prefer to start with nature sounds because again, that's the most natural thing that is out there. And that already, like, to me, if I listen to nature sounds first, I instantly feel more connected and I feel more at ease and at peace. However, if you really want to set a grounding foundation and really want to tell people like, okay, like now it's time for grounding and laying low, then you can also start with a low drone. I would say it does make a big difference. However, I prefer to start with nature sounds myself personally, just because I find it more inspiring. I hope that answers the question. Okay, so now I stopped the recording basically, right? And now let's have a listen and a look. But before that, I just show you the shamanic sound effects real quick as well. So those were the sound healing effects, and then we have the shamanic sound effects here, right? So the rain sticks and chimes, shakers, right? This gives them more like a ceremonial vibe, kind of. Okay, so let's check our recording. So now what we need to do is, the cool thing about Ableton is, like compared to other music production software, it has two realms, you could say, or like different dimensions. This one is a nonlinear dimension where we can jam. It's called session view, where we are like really able to play around with different sounds and have them in a nonlinear way. And then if we go to arrangement view, which we find here, if I click here, or if I press the tab key on my keyboard, boom, all of a sudden I'm in a linear time-space continuum, and I see there's time here and there's numbers of bars here. And what's even more amazing is everything that I did has been recorded, right? You see the clips and exactly in the moment where I did it, right? So if we start here, like with the nature sounds, you can see like even the volume is automated. So everything you do in Ableton while recording is enabled as being captured, right? And you could even, like if you enable the automation to see what's happening, you see those red lines, you could even change that, So after the recording, you can like totally edit and adjust it. You can move things around. But if you just want to keep it as it is, that's an easy way to do it. So you can just like play around, record it, and then you have it captured, and you see it's like a 4-minute journey here. And even the sounds, the shamanic effect sounds and the sound healing sounds are recorded here. So the whole journey is there, right? And what I could do now is I could just, take this selection tool here, which is the loop selector actually, but it's also the export selector. So I select it from where it starts at the beginning all the way to the end. And then I just go to File, Export Audio Video, and hit OK, or export in that sense. Give it a name, and then it can be on my hard drive, right? And then I can share it, load it up to SoundCloud or Spotify or whatever, share it with friends. So that's really cool, and that's a really quick and easy way to create a sound journey. And another way that I'm using it oftentimes, if I'm not like performing, I like to actually create it from scratch using a copy and paste approach. So that means I first find sounds that I like, and then I take them over into arrangement view. right? So my workflow is always working in session view first, jamming, exploring, and then if I have something that works well, I export it, or not I export it, but I transform it or bring it over into arrangement view. And I want to show you how that is possible, right? So let's find another sound here. Again, start with nature sounds. Right. And then let's see this low drone here, Shimmering Oasis. Nice. I love when this happens, you know, like 144, those kind of numbers, light codes. I'm also obsessed with 3, 6, and 9, which I will get into in another video, another presentation, why that is. But I just love when that happens. That's a confirmation of spirit for me that everything is going according to plan. Okay, so let's find another sound, maybe a mid drone. And again, this is like highly like intuitive. I don't have an agenda. You could have an agenda, and I can show you how that looks like when you want to create a journey for a chakra. For example, then you look for the specific chakra and the specific themes. And I have a video on my YouTube channel actually where you can see how I use this template specifically to create a root chakra sound healing journey, where I was listening to the sounds in regards of, okay, so what is resonating in the root chakra? What is the themes of the root chakra, and which sounds are representing that, right? But for now, it's just like intuitively having fun, finding sounds that work. Okay, so here's a question about what quantization do you use and how to change it in Ableton. So in this sense, I didn't use any quantization because it's all like freestyle. It's in 60 BPM, and every sound that I recorded in 60 BPM, but I was just playing freestyle and push. So in that sense, there was no, because there is no beat, right? So we don't need quantization in that sense. It's more like atmospheric and ambient. So it really depends on what you want to do. In this sense, quantization didn't make sense because it would lose its organic feel. Quantization, for those of you who don't know, is like putting the notes that have been recorded into a certain grid to make it fit and sync with the BPM and the beat, which is important when you have like dance music. Then you want it to be on the grid more or less, to not be too wobbly and to have like a solid beat. But in this sense, it's all atmospheric, and I didn't quantize anything. I just press record, close my eyes, and play on the push, which is the MIDI controller that also allows you to play notes. And I just played the sounds, and there's no quantization in that sense. Okay, so now let's find a nice atmospheric sound here. Beautiful. Love that. Another one. Yeah, nice. Some shakers and bells here. Right. So now I have sounds that I really like. And what I could do is I could like copy and paste each one. Right. I could say, okay, Shimmering Oasis. I click on that clip. It's highlighted. I can hit Command C, and then I hit Tab so that I go to the arrangement view here, and then I find the channel where it's on, right? Those are the same channels. So that is a little bit unique about Ableton, is those are the same channels. So channel 1 here, low drone, is the same channel like this one. However, the clips are not the same, right? This clip here is not the same like this one here that I'm going to paste. Each clip has its own identity, basically. And you can see now this one is grayed out, which means it's not available in arrangement. And this is because it's playing in session view right now, right? Ableton will always prioritize what's going on in session view because it was created as a performance tool. When it was first coming out, it was just a loop performance tool. Later, they turned it into a full-blown music production studio. But still, with the spirit of it being a live performance tool, whatever goes on in session view on the same channel will be preferred, right? And it's not even the same, doesn't have to be the same one. I could play the radiance even, You see now the radiance is playing, but it's on the same channel, right? And if I want to actually hear what's going on in arrangement, I would have to press this button here, but I'm not going to do that right now because I would lose all my selection here. So I wait until I have everything over in arrangement view, and then I press the button. This button basically means back to arrangement, which means stop everything that's going on in session view. But if I stop everything, then I would like lose the selection. You can see like they all have a play button here, which means they are selected for playback. If I press play, they all play, right? And so what I'm actually doing now is I delete this and I'm recording everything at the same time now into arrangement, right? So I press record now. And you can see everything now is recorded into arrangement at the same time, right? So maybe I record it for like, let's say 16 bars. So with this marker here, right, I can select the range of what I want to record. You can see here, like this is 16 bars, right? So if I press here, this means it's going to stop after 16 bars. You're going to see, like once it's going beyond the 16 bars, it's going to stop the recording. Right, boom. Now it stopped the recording. Now I can stop this. And now I can actually press the orange button. And I can do it also from here. And watch what happens if I press it, like all the ones, they're going to be deselected. And this is why I was waiting. See, boom, now they're all like deselected. And all of a sudden we have access here. They're not grayed out anymore. So now we actually have access to the arrangement and actually can listen what's going on in the arrangement. And this is why it's called back to arrangement, right? So whenever you feel like, I cannot hear what's going on here, and you see that orange box, then you need to click it, and then you can access what's going on in arrangement. And the cool thing now is that I have access to all those clips, and I can move them around, right? So now I can actually create a linear progression. So let's take all of that and move it over. Highlight them all by clicking on here, move them over, right? And let's start with the nature sound. So now I'm creating like actually like a linear progression. So I take this one first, right? And here you can see the timeline, right? It starts at 0, and then here's 1 minute. After 16 bars, it's a minute. And I can then decide when I want to bring in which sound, right? So let's say we want to bring in the nature sounds first. And they come in a little bit abrupt. So what I want to do is I want to fade them in. So in order to get the fades, I need to disable the automation here. So if I see the red lines, I cannot make the fades. But if I click on here, the red lines are gone. And then I can go at the beginning of my clip, right? Here, the Gardens of Divinity at the beginning. There's this little box. It's really hard to see. But if I click on it, I can create a fade, right? So I can make that the volume comes in slowly. And this creates a little warm-up kind of sensation, or like it's giving us some time, to tune in. So now if I press play, the volume comes in slightly and it's more gentle, right? And that's really important in general for sound journeys, to work with fades a lot and to make smooth transitions. We don't want to shock people, and we want to make it all like easy and smooth and gentle, right? So now we have the nature sounds, and maybe, after 8 bars, okay, something in the chat, let me check. My one, yes, exactly. And then let's say we want to bring in the next thing, which would be like a low drone, right? The radiance. So maybe after 8 bars, we want to bring in the radiance. So again, I fade this in. And you can also be more creative, and you can also put it in here after 6 bars already. You don't need to be so like focused on multiples of 8, which you would do in dance music. In dance music, everything has to happen in multiples of 8. After 8 bars, something has to change all the time. But the thing with dance music is it's based on the grid of 4, which is very linear and very boxed, and that's good. But if you want to break the pattern in sound journeys, I would suggest to work with multiples of 3, 6, and 9, you know, so like 6 bars, 12 bars, 24 bars, 36 bars, all those kind of things. So after 6 bars, not after 8 bars, as you would expect in dance music, after 6 bars, we already faded in, right? So now nature sounds are playing, and then slowly we bring in the low drone. Okay, I just see the question in the chat here. Let's do that later. Like, remind yourself the question, or like, we're gonna go that into the Q&A section because it's a little bit advanced, and I don't want to disrupt the flow. It's a great question. I'm gonna address that. How do you do the same with the fading in the session view? But for now, let's keep going, and let's address the question later. Okay, so, all right, let's fade this in a little bit here. Oh, the birds stopped, so we need to keep going. And the cool thing is, you know, because it's looped, I can just go to the end here where this brackets are, and I can click on it, hold the mouse, and extend it however long I want it to be. Because it's looped, it's gonna be playing until infinity, so I can just extend it. And that goes for all the sounds, you know, so I can just already make sure that they play longer here. Right, so we have this progression here. And you know, you get the idea, right? So you can just listen to and feel and tune into where you want each sound to be. And of course, at some point you can change it also, right? So let's say, okay, I want to have a different sound here after 48 bars. You know, I want a different mid drone. So what I would do is I would go over here, right? Loop that section. So if you want to loop something, you just click on here. So then it's actually looping, so it's repeating. Right, so now it's repeating. So it makes sure that it stays in that area that I've selected here, which is a loop of 8 bars. And now I can go over to session view again while this is playing, and I can play a different drone. Maybe I want to have the ethereal portal. Oh no, that doesn't work so well. Maybe the dawn portal. Nice, interesting. Maybe the sunstone portal. Yeah, there we go. That's the one, right? And then I can just now click on it, hit Command C or Control C, and then I can paste it. And what I could do now is I could just like, again, you see, it's grayed out again because now on the same channel, on the mid-drone channel, I'm actually playing the sunstone portal, and all of a sudden I cannot access that, right? So I need to click this again, and then back to arrangement, I access it. So I could just like, you know, put it all the way here, and then paste it here, the sunstone portal, right? And then I can go like from here to here, like fade one in and fade one out, right? That's one option. Let's see how that flows. That's cool, that's working. But there's an even more elegant way of doing that. And so I hit Command Z to undo, right? Command Z to undo the last steps. And what I can do now is I can duplicate that channel, you know, because you realize you can only play, let's solo this, you can only play one sound per channel, right? But let's say you want to have like maybe two mid-drones at the same time, right? Then what you can do is you can just duplicate the channel. So I can right click here, duplicate, right? Boom. And all of a sudden I have two mid-drones. And now I can play another one at the same time. Of course, I need to delete the second one here because otherwise it will be double the loudness. And now I can paste the other one here, the Sunstone Portal, and take more time on the fades and have it like more elegantly, or maybe like have them play at the same time a little bit and then fade them out, right? Or even have two at the same time going. If I want that, I could just keep it going. And then there's two mid-drones, right? There's different options. So that's something to keep in mind. If you want to have more of the same sound elements, then you just duplicate the channel and make sure that you delete the same sample, and then you can put another one. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you here is how to work with the effect sounds, because for now we're just playing them, but there's actually another way, because those sounds are in a matrix that is being triggered by nodes also. So each sound here is triggered by a node on the keyboard or a MIDI node that we can actually draw in Ableton. You can play notes or you can draw them into the piano roll. And this is what we're going to do now. So that's a really cool and easy way to work with those sound healing effects. And let's say, you know, I want to start with the bowl, like with the Tibetan bowl as the first sound ever, even before the nature sounds arrived. And I turn all the effects down for now because I just want to hit the bowl, hit once, right? So no echo, no reverb, just a normal bowl sound like this. Tibetan bowl. So what I need to do is I go to the channel here where the sound healing is, and then I highlight with the left mouse, I highlight the area where I want the clip to be, right? So I have highlighted this, and now I right click and I select Insert Empty MIDI Clip. And this gives me a clip here, which for now is empty, but if I draw on a note, I can actually play that sound at that specific place in the arrangement, right? So if you want to listen to, here you can see, right? There's this piano roll, and you see the different sounds here. If you actually want to listen to them, you enable that blue headphone symbol, which is like monitoring. And then you can click on the key here on the piano roll, right? And then you hear the sounds. And you can even zoom in. So if you go like here, where you see the magnifying glass, and then I hold the left mouse, and if I move right, I can zoom in more, or I can zoom out, right? And this can be helpful if you want to draw in notes. You can even extend this here if you need more space. You can move that up and down. You can like really scale everything in Ableton. And so let's say I want this singing bowl, right? So what I can do is, first of all, I want to change the grid here, because the grid right now, the grid is like the resolution. It's like basically the note length. And now it's set to 1/16th note, right? But I want it to be 1 bar. So that one note represents 1 bar. And so now you see I have a 2 bar loop, right? And if I go here This is the pencil key. I could also press the letter B, also enables the pencil key, the keyboard shortcut B to pencil. And if I have the pencil, I can just click in the grid here, and you can see it's divided now equally, but in just two parts, because this is 1 bar and this is 1 bar, and I set the note length to be 1 bar. If I set the note length to be half a bar, you can see, oh, all of a sudden, I could have 2, right? But I want it to be 1 bar, so I set it to 1 bar. Press the note, play it in here. You can hear it because it's still like enabling the monitoring, right? If I don't want to hear that, I turn the monitoring off, press the note here, and then we can actually see it's here in the arrangement. And now if we play it, we have the singing bowl. And maybe you want to have it again, so you just duplicate it. And maybe now I want it to be a little harder. Then I take the hard one here on top. Right, so now I have like 3 bowl sounds. And maybe let's bring in some shamanic sounds as well. So now I highlight again this area here. Insert a MIDI clip. Same game here. I enable this to hear what sounds we have. Maybe I take this layered Atmo drum here. Yeah, that's nice. See, the grid again is to 16th note. Maybe now I set it to a quarter note so that I can have like 4 notes per bar, because maybe I want to have like 4 things happen. So this takes a little bit more time. So then put this one here, and maybe the chime here, and then the rain stick here, right? So now all those things are happening. You can see them here in the notes. And they are happening where we put them, right? And you can place them like randomly, but there's also like a more intentional way of using them is to use them as transition sounds, to actually glue things together. So instead of just using only fades to have elements come in and out, you can use an effect sound to transition, to bridge it, to make something happening. So then our focus as a listener is on that, let's say a rainmaker, for example. And while this event is happening, another sound is coming in, and then it's not so obviously, oh yeah, something stops, something comes in, right? So let's give an example here. So while this is coming in, this mid drone here, and maybe let's also bring in this one, same time. We can have a transition sound here in between. Let's make a shamanic sound here at the beginning, right? So a rain stick, long, bright, or dark. Oh, let's take the dark one. So I set it to 1 bar. Right, and this is actually bridging the transition. So now we listen here. Need to make sure that it stops. Yeah. Right, so now the rain stick is playing and the new elements are coming in, and it's kind of more organic, it's kind of more glued together. So that's a very cool way to use those transition sound and effect sounds, like you can use them in between, but also when things change in the journey, when you bring in elements in and out, you can use those sounds, right? Okay, so now we're getting almost to the last thing in this presentation before we get into the Q&A, which is again, working with automation to make things sound even more interesting and to create even more organic feel and dynamism. It's cool, like to have things fade in and out, but it's even more interesting to work with color of frequency and to filter things out and to use effects and stuff like that. And this is where the effects rack come in. So if you double click on any of the channels, they all have the same effect racks right here. This is an effect rack that I've created. And each of those knobs here, they have a different effect, right? So for example, you could use a filter. So instead of just fading it in, this sounds here, right? Let's solo this. Instead of fading it in, I could also filter it in. So this is a high cut filter, which takes out all the high frequencies, right? So now if it's all the way down, then you don't hear anything. And I could bring slowly up the filter, right? Which opens up the sound slowly. First having the low end, and then bringing in the high frequencies. And it gets brighter over time and more alive over time, right? And this is what I would suggest in general, you know, like don't show all the cards at the beginning, like don't put everything on the table, like really take your time and really be mysterious about it and really, you know, like introduce things over time and gently, and not just like bring it like in one at a time so quickly, you know, like really take your time. It's like making love, you know, it's like you want to take your time with it. So how we can do this? Now we click here again on this automation, right? So this shows us all the lines. And the cool thing is each thing that we click on, the line is being represented here, right? So let's say I have clicked on the high cut filter here. See now this red line is showing me Shamanic Portals high cut filter, right? If I click on the low cut filter, boom, a different line appears with a different value, right? Now it's showing the low cut filter, but I want to automate the high cut filter. And let's say, you know, like the maximum value is maybe like something like this, right? So what I can do is I can click here and it creates a dot, right? And then I can click somewhere else and it creates another dot, right? And then I can move those dots up and down and you can see how it's changing the value. And you can also see how that is moving the knob, right? So now we can have it filter in. So let's say we start at 60, something like that. And over time, we bring it up to here, right? And let's see how that sounds in context, right? You know, now it's coming in like very gentle and it's not so obvious. Like really opening up over time. Right, you almost barely don't notice it, but oh, there's something going on. Something is happening. Ah, interesting. Right, another effect sound. Some of the Atmos sounds, they also like work as transition sounds really well. They're just the way they are placed, right? And the same thing is here for the Atmos and effects. It's even cooler. Like what I love to do is to crank up the echo and the space on the Atmos sounds. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them that are more ethereal. Like it gives it a whole nother vibe, right? So if I go on here, you see like this is now Atmo 1, the sound is the airy. So if I, right, so now it sounds way more ethereal. And maybe that's not the best example because it's more like a drone. So let's check this one. You know, that's also a drone. Maybe the passing is a good example. Yeah, exactly, right? So this has a lot of ethereal stuff going on, right? And then it gets like really, and you can really play with it. You know, like space, for example, like depending on how much it is, creates this sensation of distance, right? If you have a lot of space, it feels really far away. And if you bring it back, it feels really close, right? right? And this is really cool also if you want to bring out a sound. Let's do this. So I want to increase the space. So I want to make the feeling that it's like over time feeling more far away. Oh, that's the echo, right? So that was the wrong one. I actually wanted to have the space. So that is actually increasing over time, getting more far away. And also the echo is increasing over time, but in a shorter amount of time so that the end is really echoing like crazy. So this is another way to create a transition where you bring out a sound, right? So now let's listen to that. Let's see how, the space increases already. And then the echo is increasing, and this creates this long fade out effect. You hear, like now it's fading into infinity. And it's not just gone, like fade out, like boring, It's like really, oh wow, it went somewhere. It's still like reverberating, it's still echoing. And that's way more immersive and way more magical. And yeah, so this is automation. Automation is key, king and queen in the game of creating things that are immersive, making things more organic and alive. And you can really play around with that, like a lot with the filters, a lot with the echo in space and all that stuff. All right, so now, before we get into the Q&A, if you are curious where to get this template in case you don't have it, today there's a special discount also, because for everybody of you watching, you can get 20% off using the discount code 432. And I will give you the website here, put the link in the description. Pretty sure some of you already have it, but for those of you who don't, you can get it on that website. And if you put in the code 432 upon checkout, you get 20% off. All right, so with that, I thank you all so much for hanging in there with me and following. And now I'm curious about your questions. And let's see if there's other questions than the one that we had about the automation. And also, I'm also curious just to hear, like, some feedback, some voices, some impressions, how you're all doing. Feel free to unmute yourself and share a little bit. I've talked so much, I'm gonna enjoy my cacao now and curious to hear what you got to say.
Amazing, thank you so much. Expanded my understanding how can I actually record it and tailor it and sound. Before that, I was trying to make it in session view. And actually, I would love to see a little bit more about it. How do you perform there? And etc.
Cool, thank you. Somebody else want to share something? Mastering chain. Wow, that's pretty advanced. So in general, I would suggest multiband compression to take care of the low end. That's really important. And also obviously like a limiter to make sure that you're not clipping. If you can afford it, yeah, I know it's complicated, but something that works. Yeah, so I mean, it depends, it depends also on the budget and on your computer and stuff like that. If you want to keep it really simple within the confines of Ableton, use a multiband compressor. And I'm not going to get into this now because it's very advanced. And I'm also, giving private classes and stuff like that. But so yeah, multiband compressor to take care of the low end and also the mids, because there can be a lot of resonances, with the tuning forks and singing bowls and all that stuff, like all the frequencies, the healing frequencies, they can create a lot of build up in the mids as well. So multiband compressor to take care of the lows and the mids. Low end is really important. If it's too much, it will just boom. Like if you perform, it might sound good in your headphones and in your home speakers, but if you're actually like in a big space, as in an ecstatic dance event or like a sound healing event where there's actually big speakers, and then you're gonna feel like, holy shit, my low end is way too much. And so you need to be really careful with that. I already pre-mixed it in that template, right? So if you can see, I already made a low cut here at 30 hertz on the low drones and 60 on the mid drones and stuff like that. But still, on the master, I also have a low cut and I have a limiter, but I would also put like a multiband compressor. So you go to the, oh wait, I need to share my screen. I'm not sharing my screen, am I? Yeah. So on the master, you go to dynamics, you go to multiband dynamics. You can have a setting like in the presets, a standard multiband compression, and then you can adjust the threshold accordingly until you see it's doing something, right? So here, let's loop this, and I go down on the mids and on the lows, right? And then you can see the gain reduction here. And now that's pretty drastic, of course, and you need to use your ear. And in this case, because it's all pre-mixed, it's not so bad. But that's definitely something that I always use, because especially also if I play like live and I play like, you know, instruments that have like singing bowls and tuning forks and all that stuff, then it's really important. And then what I also like to use is like, you know, Gullfoss, which is quite expensive, but it's a real-time frequency shaper. So Gullfoss is taking care in real time about frequencies that are pleasant and frequencies that are unpleasant. So it's taming and boosting frequencies. So it's constantly balancing sound, you know? So that is also something that I would use if you can afford it. It's $200. It's definitely very advanced, but it's also really cool to have. But you don't need it, you know, you don't need it. This is just like if you're obsessed, you know, like with sound quality, and most people don't even notice the difference. But me, I've been working with sound, you know, for 20 years, and I'm obsessed with sound quality, and I love to use this because it's doing it in real time. So as the sounds are changing in dynamic ways, it's adjusting the sounds in dynamic ways, cutting the mud, increasing the presence. You know, Gullfoss is amazing. It's an amazing mixing tool, but it's not needed. For this template, you don't need it, you know? It's all like pre-mixed already, and it's all working in a way. And if you work with filters in a clever way, making sure that, you know, you take out the low frequencies where they don't need to be, and yeah, just create some kind of spacing also in the mix by moving the panning around and stuff like that. That can be good. So there's not too much of a mastering chain in that sense, actually. Multiband compressor and limiter is like actually the most important thing. Ah, yeah, okay. Nice, awesome. So then, yeah, use Gullfoss. Oh, well, that's a great thing. Tonal balance control as well, really good for mixing. Okay, any other questions?
Hi, brother. How are you?
Man, good to see you. I'm good.
Hi. Oh, great. Hi to everyone. So, sorry, my English. First of all, I wanted to say thank you, bro. I think there is a dream come true for
Mm,
me to have this template that it not only has that beautiful quality of music, those, journey multidimensional magic, but also the channeling that it has. For me, it's like a dream come true to be able to share that magic with in my ceremonies and with the people. So I wanna to congratulate you, bro, and thank you for all that you do.
thank you so much, brother. Much appreciated. And thank you for all that you do and sharing the vibes with your community as well. I also really appreciate your work and love the magic that you create. It's a way, it's a co-creation, right?
Right, bro. Thank you.
Danke dir, Andreas. Just answering to the chat in German. Okay. So then if there is no more questions and no more feedback, then there was this question still about the automation, right? The automation in session view. And let's have a look at that. So for example, right, let's say I want to fade in this nature sound here. So I can double click on it, and then it's actually showing me the clip view, right? And there's a lot of things I can change. I can change the volume of each clip individually instead of changing the channel volume. But if I actually want to have it to fade in, I need to automate it. And again, maybe we remember this little sign here, that's the automation sign. So if I click on this, you can see we get the envelopes again. Like those lines are called envelopes. And what we want to find is not the mixer, we want to find the clip. So I need to check the envelope source here, and I go to clip, right? Because it's this clip, only this clip, and not the mixer. The mixer would be the whole thing. That would affect everything, but we just want this clip to fade in. And then gain, right? And then I can highlight an area. Maybe let's say I want to fade it in over 8 bars. And one way would be I can create the dots again and move it, right? So this way it would fade in. So let's have a listen to that, how that fades in. Right, so it's slowly coming in. Slowly increasing the volume. But there's also predefined shapes already. So if I highlight this area here, and then it's highlighted and I right click, and then you see, again, insert shape, right? And those are like envelope shapes. And this is, for example, a fade that is more quick, and this is a fade that is more slow. So if you want to have a more quick fade, you choose the first one. And you see like we have this curve here, right? And this way, it's also fading in. And this is how you do automation in a clip. All right. So yeah, then I would say there's nothing more. Thank you all for joining. And yeah, maybe I just put it on the YouTube channel. Maybe that's the easiest way to do it. And there will be more. There will be more workshops about different tuning systems. There's like many very exciting things that I'm working on right now. I'm working on a 528 cosmic DNA activation template, and there's so much to say about solfeggio frequencies and DNA activation and those kind of things. And then also a Merkaba light body activation template that has to do with sonic geometry and a different tuning again, 428 hertz. And this is all coming, but we start easy with 432, which is already like super powerful, if you believe it. And yeah, so thank you all for joining. Marwa has a small question.
Yes. First of all, thank you so much. It's so beautiful to reconnect to your magic and to feel inspiration coming for the co-creation comings as well, for the retreats. Yeah, I'm curious. You said that everything is tuned into C major, and I know it's all intuitive and we can all play together, but I'm curious if there is like each clip have a specific key that you are the only one knowing, and we can maybe know that, or
The key is C major.
always? Okay.
Yeah, and this template, yes, because also, like in general for sound healing, I like to work on major keys because major chords, they give us a sense of stability and home and safety, and that's what we want to create in sound healing. We don't want to put people on an emotional journey. I mean, we could, but that's a different intention. For what I want to do is like the most harmonious effect is when you get create stability. And stability comes from major chords and comes from intervals that are strong. Like the perfect fifth is a strong interval, the octave is a strong interval, and the perfect fourth. So I'm only using those mainly in my journey. So all the sounds that you hear are intervals that are either perfect fifth, octaves, or perfect fourth. I'm not even working with chords in that sense, because then you would already color it, and then you would already create some emotions, and you don't necessarily want to get into an emotional state. That's a different kind of healing, right? But if we just want to attune, like the universe is not sad in that sense. The universe is perfectly vibrating in harmony and alignment and balance. So if we want to create that effect, we use major keys and strong intervals, right? Yeah, fourth, fifth, and octaves, exactly. Those are the strongest intervals out there. And everything else is creating more tension, and that's also interesting, but that's a different purpose, right? And C major also, because it's like very compatible with all the other templates, which are also in C major. And there's this whole idea that the C major scale tuned to 432 Hz is resonating the chakras, so it's also building on that, right? Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, my intuition told me that, but I just wanted that you confirm that. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, awesome. You're welcome. Ah, nice. You also your Galaxy car. I didn't even see that. Amazing. Yeah. Okay, cool. So yeah, then I would say have a beautiful rest of your day or evening, or yeah, enjoy the solar storms, enjoy the upgrades. We're all leveling up. And yeah, thank you all for the love. I really appreciate your support, and this really keeps me inspired and excited to keep going. Like, this is just the beginning, guys. It's gonna, a lot more is coming. And yeah, I also wish you all the best on your journey. Now is the time to follow our calling. And if you feel the call to be a sonic alchemist or work with sound, it's the future. It's a path that is being supported, and it's a beautiful journey. And I congratulate you all for choosing this path. All right, guys, much love, and see you in the next one. Thank you, Manisha, for being the host.